When was the last time you showed up as you without performing? Not for the camera, not for the algorithm, not for likes, followers, approval, or applause. Just you. Pause. Let that silence settle, because if you're honest, it's been a while, hasn't it? You've been visible to the world, yes, but invisible to yourself, scrolling through life, smiling on cue, wearing a digital face that speaks louder than your own inner voice. Every swipe, every post, every reaction, another thread spun into the mask. The digital persona, polished, curated, strategic, an identity handcrafted not from your depths but from the demands of a machine. And at first, it seemed harmless, a way to connect, to be seen, to matter. But slowly, the current pulled you under, and now you're performing more than you're living. You're broadcasting instead of breathing. And every time you scroll past yourself, you vanish a little more. Look closer. You're not just watching others. You're watching yourself perform. The angles, the filters, the captions that sound like you but aren't quite yours. And beneath it all, a quiet ache. The ache of disconnection. From your joy, from your voice, from your soul. You've mistaken visibility for presence. But being seen isn't the same as being known, and followers don't make you whole. Attention is not affection, engagement is not belonging. So tell me, who are you when no one is watching? The truth? You don't know anymore, because the performance has become automatic. You smile for people you don't love, argue for causes you don't live, share content that isn't even yours, but fits the persona you've built. That mask you crafted to survive online, it's now become your prison. This is the danger Carl Jung warned us about. He called it the persona, the mask we present to the world. It's not inherently evil. It's the part of you that adapts to society, the role you play to function, relate, and succeed. But here's the danger. When you forget that it's a mask, when you confuse the persona with yourself, you become hollow, a vessel shaped by expectation, not essence, a being of mirrors with no anchor beneath. And the world we live in now, this endless digital theater, it doesn't just reward the mask, it demands it. Every platform is a stage, every account a curated shrine. You're not just scrolling, you're being shaped by metrics, by trends, by approval, by invisible hands guiding your sense of worth. You think you're in control, but listen closely, algorithms are shaping your soul. They decide what you see, what you desire, what you fear, and ultimately who you think you are. It's not just influence, it's infiltration. And yet you keep scrolling, searching, grasping for some spark of realness in the endless loop of performance. But you won't find yourself out there. Because the deeper you go into that digital fog, the further you drift from the one place you need to return to, within. Stop. Right now. Feel this moment. Drop the phone, drop the persona, drop the narrative, and ask yourself, really ask, what am I running from? Is it the fear of not being enough, the silence that follows when you're not being validated, the terror of irrelevance? Beneath your performance lives your pain. And social media, it doesn't heal it. It hides it. It gives you the illusion of connection while feeding the hunger that never ends. You get the hit, the heart, the view, but it fades, and in its place, emptiness. So you reach again and again and again, until the reaching becomes a reflex, and the ache becomes your baseline. You've traded your presence for performance, your stillness for stimulation, your soul for a brand. But here's what you need to hear. You were not born to be content. You were born to be conscious. That ache in your chest, it's not weakness, it's the callback home to yourself, to the real you, the one before the mask, the one who doesn't need to impress, to exist. Don't scroll past this. This is your line in the sand. This is the moment the dream breaks and the truth begins. The digital persona is not who you are. It's who you thought you had to be. But yourself, your true, eternal, luminous self has never left. It's been waiting, quietly, patiently, underneath the noise, underneath the roles, underneath the version of you that the internet claps for. But your soul weeps behind. You've performed long enough. Now, live. You've been visible long enough. Now, become present. Because you cannot heal what you keep hiding. You cannot be whole while split in two. The one you show and the one you silence. This isn't about deleting your accounts. It's about reclaiming your awareness, reclaiming your time, reclaiming your truth. It's about no longer asking machines to define your meaning, no longer mistaking performance for purpose, no longer confusing attention with love. It's about remembering You are not the role, you are not the mask, you are not the metrics, you are the awareness watching all of it. And when you remember that, really remember, the spell breaks, the lie dissolves, and the self rises, not to perform, but to be. Say it. I choose awareness, I choose presence, I choose to come home. Now. Before the next scroll, before the next distraction, before the algorithm devours another piece of your soul, come back. You still can. And yet, you hesitate. Even now, something inside resists, because letting go of the mask, even when it suffocates, feels like death. But that fear is not truth. It is the death of illusion. And what dies in this moment is only the false self. The persona you've carried was never evil. It helped you navigate, helped you belong, helped you survive. But it's time to ask, survive for what? Because survival is not the same as living, and belonging is not the same as becoming. Carl Jung warned us that the persona is only one layer. Beneath it lies the shadow, the parts of you you've exiled, not just your fears, your shame, your rage, but also your authenticity, your desire, your power. The shadow holds the truth you aren't ready to face. And social media, it's become the perfect place to hide from that truth. You project your best, you hide your worst, and the algorithm learns you better than you know yourself. Because it's watching your patterns, not your words. It knows what makes you flinch, what makes you click, what keeps you scrolling. It knows what you fear and what you long for. And it feeds you a mirror of your own unconscious. Endless images, endless reels, endless shadows parading as light. You scroll past your jealousy and call it inspiration. You repost your outrage and call it virtue. You seek validation from strangers and call it confidence. But let's be honest, you're not inspired. You're exhausted, you're not connected, you're fragmented. And every tap, every swipe, every notification, the fry, it pulls you further from yourself. You're not browsing, you're bypassing, you're not documenting your life, you're editing your existence. And somewhere deep in your nervous system, a truth is screaming, this isn't me. Because your soul doesn't want followers, it wants freedom. Freedom from performing for ghosts, freedom from proving your worth to machines. Freedom from shaping your identity around metrics. You were not meant to be a brand, you were meant to be a being. So stop. Breathe. Let the silence in. Let the ache speak. Because underneath that ache is something sacred. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your invitation. It holds the parts you buried so you could be loved. The parts you were told were too much, too messy, too weird, but they are you. Unfiltered, unedited, unrepeatable. The world told you to be useful, to be productive, to be agreeable, to be liked. But the soul whispers, be whole. And wholeness does not mean perfection. It means integration, to bring together what you've split apart, the mask and the face, the fear and the fire, the pain and the power. Jung called it individuation, the path of becoming yourself, not the self that performs. The self that is, the one who doesn't need applause to feel alive, who doesn't need to be seen to know they matter. Who doesn't post their worth, they embody it. You don't need to go viral, you need to go inward. Because every time you betray your truth for attention, you reinforce the lie that you are not enough as you are. But listen, really listen. You don't have to live this way. You can be real. Even in a world addicted to fake, you can be still. Even in a world addicted to speed, you can be whole. Even in a world addicted to performance. But you must choose it. Not once. Every day, to pause before you post, to feel before you filter, to ask, does this come from my truth or my need to be accepted? Because the self, your true self, doesn't shout, it whispers, it waits in the quiet, in the discomfort, in the places you've been taught to avoid. It lives in the present moment, not the one you're documenting, but the one you're too distracted to feel. And it's not just about you. Because when you show up as your whole self, you give others permission to do the same. You break the spell, you shift the culture, you create space for honesty in a world starving for it. You stop performing and you start embodying. And that is rebellion. Not louder, not flashier, but deeper. Truer. Still. There is a reason you've been feeling restless. Anxiety isn't always dysfunction. Sometimes it's wisdom in disguise. Your soul is sounding the alarm. It's telling you, this life you've been performing isn't yours. It's the one the world gave you, the one the algorithm rewarded, the one the persona maintained. But your self is rising. Can you feel it? The subtle revolt inside your chest, the crack in the facade, the grief you didn't know you were carrying, the longing that no number of followers can touch. That's your truth trying to surface. Let it. You won't die. You'll finally begin to live. Say it. I will not betray myself again. I am not content. I am consciousness. I will no longer perform a version of me. I will embody the truth of me. No more ghost posting, no more shadow scrolling, no more soul sacrificing. You're done editing your essence. You're done shrinking yourself. This is the moment. Choose depth over dopamine. Choose presence over performance. Choose you, the real you, over the version the world expects. Because what you reclaim now will echo across every moment that follows. And the first step, turn inward, not to analyze, not to fix, but to feel, to remember. You were never meant to be watched, you were meant to awaken. So pause, let it sink in. You are not broken, you are buried. Beneath the filters, beneath the captions, beneath the endless metrics, there is a pulse, an original rhythm, a voice untouched by algorithms, untainted by applause. This is the moment you begin to hear it again. The moment you stop asking the world who you are and start listening to the quiet truth you've carried all along. This is the return to yourself. It's not a dramatic exit. It's a gentle, powerful reclaiming, one breath at a time, one choice at a time. You unplug not to escape the world, but to feel it again. You step away from performance not to vanish, but to finally arrive. This is the path of individuation Jung spoke of, the sacred unfolding of who you truly are. Not an image, not a role, but a soul, ancient, whole, and waiting to be remembered. And that remembering begins with courage. The courage to face your shadow, the parts you've hidden to survive. The courage to embrace your contradictions, your rage and tenderness, your grief and hope. The courage to be seen, not as perfect, but as present. And the courage to stop giving your power away to platforms that profit from your insecurity. Because let's be clear, they don't care about your wholeness. They care about your engagement. They don't want you healed. They want you hooked. And every time you confuse their validation with your value, you give them permission to define your worth. No more. You are not a reaction. You are not a product. You are not the echo of a trend. You are the original. Not what's performed, what's felt, what's known in silence, what's lived in truth. And the world, the real world, needs that now more than ever. Not more influencers, more inwardness. Not more content, more consciousness. Not more noise, more clarity. Because we are drowning in performance and starving for presence. So become the still point, the grounded one. The soul who doesn't play the game but transforms it simply by refusing to leave themselves behind. And that presence, it's contagious. It creates space. It gives others permission to drop the act, to feel again, to breathe again, to be human again. That's the power of integration. Not just healing for you, but for everyone you touch. Because when you stop performing, you invite real connection. When you stop projecting, you begin relating. And when you stop chasing attention, you start creating meaning. So ask yourself now, what would your life look like if you didn't need to be liked? What would you create if you weren't trying to stay relevant? Who would you be if you stopped performing and started becoming? Let the answers come, not in a rush, but in the stillness that follows surrender. This is not a performance, it's a passage, a sacred undoing. You've worn the mask long enough. Now feel the skin beneath it, the breath, the ache, the truth. And no, it won't be easy. The world will keep pulling, the old patterns will whisper, post it, prove it, perfect it. But you will know, that voice, that urge, that performance, it's not you, it's the echo of who you thought you had to be. You don't owe the world your performance, you owe yourself your presence. Let that become your mantra. I do not perform, I embody. I do not chase, I return. I do not please, I live. Because the more you live from the self, the less you need the persona. And from that space, you will begin to create, not to impress, but to express, to serve, to offer something real in a sea of simulation. You won't need to edit your truth. You'll speak it, straight and soft and steady. You won't need to sell your soul for reach. You'll reach into your soul and speak from there. You'll stop asking, what will they think of this? And start asking, is this true for me? That is liberation. Not the absence of pressure, but the presence of alignment. And with every act of inner fidelity, you become more real, more rooted, more radiant. Not in the way the internet defines, but in the way your soul remembers. So step off the stage, step out of the scroll, step back into your life, Into the moment, the mirror, into the self. The world may not notice, but you will. And that noticing, that first honest breath, is your rebirth. Say it. I am not content. I am consciousness. I am not performing. I am remembering. I am not online. I am awake.